their faces. You don't have to pay attention the whole time. You guys do, but online they don't. All right, let's start off with tell me something good. Who's got something cool to share? Something.
2 closings in April.
2 closings in April. I love it. 4 for the team. I can count on Wendy to dance. That's awesome. Congratulations, you guys. What else? What else is good?
Next week is spring break. Me at least.
Oh, it's like,
My spring break is over. So I'm actually happy about it. It's like the first day I feel normal after a week off. So, all right, one more.
There's a listing in my neighborhood I'm trying to get.
Wait a minute, let's reframe.
Commissioners, no try.
There's a listing in your neighborhood that you're trying to get.
That I'm going to get.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So maybe tell us the details and somebody might have a buyer for you.
It's a for sale by owner, and I'm trying to inform him and get all the details because the sign he posted outside his house has
Awesome.
no information on it. Yeah. Except for his phone number, which he doesn't pick up, so.
And doesn't it say don't knock on the
So you're staying
door?
motivated.
don't bug me.
Don't bother me.
All right. I want to walk through. Katie, can you hit? I'm seeing the meeting is being recorded on the screen. Just want to walk through a handful of trainings that we have coming up. We do our best to bring training to the moment, and this is one of them. This and listings are like the 2 things that everybody's talking about. You have some really high producing. We have one of them in the room here, Jelena. Thank you for doing that. A lot of people doing a lot of transactions that are having success on the buy side and getting their offers accepted. So that one is
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
tomorrow at 1 o'clock and via Zoom in the lakes and via Zoom. Nailed it.
Got it.
All right. Another one, create a wow client experience with Benji. This will be a good one. This is also at the lakes at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 29th. And the last one that I think we have on here is the Golden Letter Workshop. So the premise of this one, Kami can jump in if she wants to, but the premise of this one is we all have buyers. Maybe we're struggling to find inventory for them. This strategy has to do with sending out letters and getting potential people that are considering selling that aren't on the market that you can get your buyers in front of. So you win both sides if you're able to find those people before they go to the market. So Kami's holding that on the 31st at 1 o'clock here. Kami, anything to add?
No, you will have a letter at the end of the workshop, just, you know, if you've done them. Yep, so if you've done this before or have suggestions, please feel free to come so that we can create a custom letter for each one of you.
Awesome. Love that. We can use every strategy we can get our hands on in this market. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I was telling Jelena and Chris and a couple of people yesterday, I don't like being told what to do. And I don't think most of us do. Derek might. Yeah. You're totally that guy. Don't go on vacation. Okay. I'm going to go on vacation. the way I like to be taught, the way I like to be coached is through people asking me questions that require me to come up with my own answers. So then I will actually believe the route that I'm going to take is the right one versus somebody else telling me what I should do. I'm going to take the same route with you guys. So just a short 4 questions I want to ask with regards to the first quarter. We're at the end of March, so we're technically about a month past the first quarter if we're looking at closings. So first quarter questions. What have you done well that has either kept you on track or put you beyond where you currently are? You don't have to answer right now, but we will walk through these and just have a conversation. So what have you done that you felt has kept you on track? If you're not on track, what haven't you done that if you had, you would be on track? It's kind of a circle question, yet I'm going to ask some intuitive questions, and then we're going to get away from trying to complicate things and making them simple. Now, these last 2, you might not feel comfortable with, yet it's the reality of sometimes things just show up. So what did you get unlucky on? So there's things that show up. There's plenty of coaching appointments that I have that people will tell me I would be on track, but this, and this happened. Okay, that's true, right? Those things are going to show up. That's okay. Let's just acknowledge them. And then on the flip side, what did you get lucky on? This is the one that scares me the most because it's a fallacy of sometimes we just get lucky and then we think we did everything and we can replicate lucky. Can we replicate lucky? You can give yourself a better chance by doing the right things. I do think luck shows up more for those that do the right things consistently. But the last two, I really want you to look at because those are the things that can put us in a little bit of a trap and then we fall behind. And then we really don't know how to identify why we're behind based on previous results. Does that make sense? Makes sense in my head. I write down a lot of things that make sense in my head. And then when I present them, sometimes people look at me and like, you would probably have done that at a listing appointment. Everything makes sense, but they just don't comprehend why you're suggesting what you're suggesting. Okay. All right. So let's jump into, okay, we can go full screen. I want to talk about value. We talk often about the value that we bring to clients. We post stuff that is valuable online. I kind of want to walk through a couple of things. I've written down some things, but I know there's more brain power in this room than what I probably have written down. So I'd like to have just some interaction when we talk about, I want to talk about a who, a what, and a how with regards to value, okay? So on a daily basis, who can you guys bring value to? Friends, okay? Family. You're going to notice that I'm going to go capital and then I won't, and I don't know why. It's just capital and small print. Just deal with it. What else?
Colleagues.
Colleagues. Okay. Yourself. Who said yourself? I love me. I love me.
Community,
Say that again.
community.
Community. Thank you, Terry.
I know them.
Jeff, what did you mean by yourself? That one was interesting.
I mean, bring value to your days, your life, whatever maybe you're focusing on for the day, or whatever brings you joy, or whatever you're trying to get better at. There could be a litany of ways you're bringing value to your day.
A lot of people forget about that, right? So I like that.
I think it's interesting that
There is a community.
we're here at work, and number 6 is going to be clients. It's a little ironic. We're in a work.
Industry?
They fall into that. What was that, PG?
Industry.
Industry?
Industry? Okay.
With social media, you can hit a lot of people that you don't know that you're communicating to.
Can we write everyone?
Mm-hmm.
The whole wide world.
The whole wide world. So essentially we can bring value to everyone. Now, when we can bring value to everyone, yet we have to understand who we want to bring value to. Because not everybody expects or finds value in the same things. I would anticipate everybody agrees, right? So now what I want to do is, as realtors, what specifically do you bring that's valuable to these people? And this is where it might get interesting because I have the things that I've written down just to make sure that I facilitate it, but I'm thinking I'm going to get different answers, which might throw this off a little bit, which will also make it fun. So why are you valuable as realtors? Why, Chris, why not just do it for sale by owners?
Say that again, she's on mute.
Perspective.
What does that mean?
Well, you're in the market every day, they aren't.
That must be Eric Peterson. There's a few people in that room, I think, right? Okay. Perspective, what else?
Expertise.
Advocacy.
Protection.
Advocating on behalf of the client is fiduciary responsibility, right?
Fiduciary, okay. Protecting. Okay, somebody said something online?
I said protection, but
I'm gonna throw that into advocacy. That works really well, Terry, thank you. What else?
Anyone care for their?
Care?
we bring a sense of calm because it's very confusing for people a lot of times.
Terry, I had that one written down. What I wrote is emotional stability. We're in a therapy class right now.
We bring our knowledge base.
Knowledge, okay?
Which comes from experience.
Okay.
Resources.
Okay. What else?
Conversation behind the data.
We throw that into these two. Perspective and I had guidance written down, which I think can be also probably these two as well. I wrote down clarity because I don't know if people really know what they want until they have the information that they need. Clarity on goals.
On those lines, Jake, I would say the hard truth, because this is not an easy market right now.
Honesty, okay. I'm just gonna start fitting in because I want this. So this is gonna get messy. Nobody online can see this. Goals. Okay, anything we missed?
I think you bring who you are. It's basic. We all are unique, right? So if part of my value is to be fun or to be caring or to be, you bring a unique energy to the relationship that may be part of your value proposition or may not be.
Value of you.
You bring a horrible attitude.
That might not be valuable, although some of the perspective and expertise could be misguided as well.
Pipper in the chat said loyalty.
Loyalty, I'm gonna throw that in fiduciary. Objective, yeah, I'm gonna throw that in as well, no, objective. So you guys see where I'm going, right? Here's what happens when I rehearse this 3 times over. Awesome. Now what? And what came to my mind is there's skill sets in being able to do every single one of these. So we might understand the what, but if we can't deliver the how, is it valuable? So when you look at expertise, you can just kind of, what skill set would be necessary for expertise?
Training.
What kind of training?
Classes, certifications.
What specific area?
Psychology.
I think there's something to be true. So
Communicate.
I don't know how to spell psychology.
PESYCHOLOGY.
Somebody, they're like, I don't think I need to come into another one of these team meetings. Talking about value, you can't say.
Communication skills.
Communication skills. So let's run down. I'm not going to tie each one because we came up with more than I thought. So communication skills. What else?
The economy, like economics.
Economics.
How real estate plays into that.
Are we on over there?
Yeah.
Resources. We bring our resources.
What's a skill set around resources?
Well, people call us for, who do you know for mortgage? Who do you know for carpeting? Who do you know for plumbing? Who do you know?
We have resources under, I think those are value pieces. unless there's a way, I think you could, the way we communicate the resources could be the how of those.
And maybe.
What about relations? Like there's a like relationship building, like how do you create stronger relationships?
Relationship building.
Personal skills.
Okay. Put that in there. What else? So one of the big ones that I wrote down for a few of these is where I get, you guys, some people really enjoy when I do this and some people don't. When I get super passionate about something that frustrates me is typically the best stuff that comes out when I say the wrong words. Context around all, you could do perspective, expertise, your knowledge base, your context of the information that you're sharing. Is there a lack of information out there? We're drowning in information and starving for wisdom. You guys have the opportunity to provide wisdom. They have the information. So do you understand how to put context around it? Because here's one of the things, and we covered this in January as well. Here's one of the things. Do we have a lack of inventory? I could make an argument with you because it's very, very difficult to have record sales with NAR and say we have a lack of inventory. The truth is, fast market, and by the way, people use millennials as a negative term. I look at it as a very positive term. Millennials have shown up. And the sheer size of that group is driving a perceived lack of inventory. So while both can be true, do you understand how to explain that to clients saying, yeah, we might have a lack of inventory, but we also have a really fast moving market. There's a different guidance that we can provide as realtors under each one of those. If it's fast moving, here are the things that we need to do. If there's a lack of inventory, here are the things that we can do. But if we just think it's a lack of inventory without any context around it, social media can be awesome or it could really make you upset. Because I see a lot of people that have no idea what they're talking about. Not with us, of course. Yet what they're saying doesn't actually make sense to me because I'm in the industry, but the clients just perceive it at face value. So I would much rather get us very, very clear on what's the value we can provide and what are the skill sets that will allow us to deliver that value at the highest level. It's the who, the what, then how do we do it?
I would have to ask you good questions. And the
Yes.
skills that we need to develop, and that's really critical in building trust and providing the right solutions for people that question it.
I can't, for those of you that have ever coached with me, I can't underemphasize the value of really, really good questions. Not questions based on answers you want to receive, but questions that get you to the core of what the client or what the other person needs. Too many times we're asking questions and now I'm jumping all over because that was the next thing I was thinking. Wendy, I can count on it. You're already forecasting. You're already forecasting. There is something to be said because the questions allow you to be objective based on how to lead them. It's going to give you care. It's going to give you clarity. I thought was on here too. Those questions can also provide emotional stability. The stories they have are all over the board, right? So asking questions can kind of hone that in. So if I can encourage you to, if you're going to take anything, just take one thing from this meeting. We're not done yet. So if this is one thing that you take, do the who, the what, and the how. And you can create strategies with regards to how you're going to communicate, brand, promote, do all the things that actually make you somebody people are going to trust. Okay. One thing I forgot that I want to touch on. Anticipation. So you guys have enough experience that you can anticipate a lot of the things that may happen throughout a process. That anticipation allows you to prepare. And if you use that anticipation to prepare, you have all the answers in those meetings before they even ask the questions, which just gives them more comfort with you. Make sense?
Jake, if I could add one thing to that I'm seeing as a common theme that we could be focused on proactively is it's kind of self-care in a way. I mean, in this market right now, I'm hearing agents, you know, in March talking about being burnt out, and we haven't really hit the spring market. So how are you being proactive with yourself so that you can show up as a calm advocate that is stable? They're looking to you like a child sort of looks to a parent. It's like, if you're freaking out, what's going to happen? So how can you right now set yourself up to be able to run this marathon? I think that's really going to be critical for those people that are going to succeed in this market, is to have the grit and tenacity, but also have a mindset that is steady.
Stuff to do, right?
Yeah.
Actually, in my notes, it's kind of how I'm going to close out. I don't even know why I'm here. Rather than, I'll just call myself a facilitator. And actually, that's the way I prefer to do it anyway. But I do have something, Eric Peterson actually shared something with me. I just said, what's going on out there? And he just said, people are beat down. Agents are beat down, clients are beat down. Like there's this air. And the only thing that's going to allow that to happen is for us to get steady ourselves so we can handle that challenge along the way. So, and if I can offer, I'm just going to go off script. You guys, I'm probably going to confuse you because this is part of the end, but if I can offer a perspective, we're in a really tough market and we're in a really good market. Your perspective of it matters. Who was in the business in 2000? I love dating myself, but 2006, 7, 8, 9. Okay, what was that like?
I was.
Awesome.
Well, here's the reality.
I'm kidding. It was a horrific
I share
nightmare.
this not for me, but to give perspective, it doesn't matter what market. I had my best year in 2008. And the only reason I did is because a lot of people that were in the industry for a long time didn't want to do the work that I was willing to do because I was so hungry that I would just take, yep, you got for sale or short sales? Take it.
Yeah,
I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do them.
It's worth noting, Tony Strump was started in 2006.
There you go. So we're never going to be out of a market that isn't. So if we can just accept that, it makes it easier for us to grow as individuals and business people to understand it's an adaptation. It's not going to be this perfectly balanced opportunity at any point in time. It's just navigate it. I would take this over 2008. Now, some of people you are like, you don't know how tired I am. I get it. And we get decisions. There's opportunity out there right now. Okay. So if I repeat myself on that one, awesome. We did my job. All right. So I want to go into knowing, taking all of this into account. I want to do this really short exercise. So I want you to write down a personal goal for the year and a business goal for the year. Because you're online, doesn't keep you from doing this. I'm looking at you, but you see the back of my head. I'm getting bald.
No, you're good.
Never seen that before.
Why do they got to in the front, Jake?
Just embrace it. There you go, John. All right, so personal goal, business goal for the year. I'll give you 1 minute. All right. So now I want you to isolate one of them. Pick whatever one you want. I'm gonna ask a question, and I don't want you to answer it. I just want you to pay attention to the question. And then just listen to whatever your answer is. What is the one thing that needs to be done today so you can hit that goal by the end of the year? Okay, now stop. My gut says you know the answer. If you're anything like me, here's what happens. What's the one thing I can do? And I got a list of 15 things that complicate accomplishing it. Did anybody have an intuitive answer? This is where it's tough to teach because intuitively, I think we all know, and if we're listening, we can hear it. But if you have an intuitive answer of you know what needs to be done, what was it? We don't have any intuition in here. Consistency? Okay. Simple. Now the goal is, let's not complicate it. Because it's consistency in one or two things. So here's kind of my perception around it. I use health often because it can be very simple. Now I realize there's nuances we all have. Yet if somebody wants to be healthier, what do they have to do?
Sleep, work out.
Sleep, work out, eat better. Not any more complicated, right? The business isn't any different, guys. Challenge is we all know what to do, but there's something that's keeping us from doing it. More interested in that. We were talking about your videos. And the challenge that you're likely running into now is it worth it? Anything you do long enough will work. 100%, no question. Or you'll learn enough to know exactly where to pivot. So stick with whatever you're doing on the consistency side of things. Okay? I wrote this down as well. Strategy and mindset are required for goals to be achieved. We can't just talk about strategy. We've got to figure out what's going to allow us to actually execute on those strategies. And if your mind is not in the right place, you'll pivot, you'll switch, you'll allow boredom to make a different decision for you. All of that is fine. There's no judgment. I do think it'll hinder you on your way to where you say you want to be. Then you just have to make a decision on whether or not you're okay with not going there. Fair? Any thoughts on that? Or was that just some weird thing that I just did that didn't make any sense? Right.
May I offer a perspective?
Well, I can always count on one from Rick. Hold on tight.
So before accomplishing becoming healthier physically, you need to accept that you're not okay with where you are at the moment. One of the things that's very challenging in this business now, as it was back in 2006, 7, 8, and that's why one of the reasons why I brought up Tony, is because right now we're getting worn out because we're accepting that this is an incredibly difficult market, and we're accepting that we may have to write 5 offers before a client gets something, and it might continue to fail over and over and over. Before we go beyond that and don't get worn out, we have to accept that that's not okay. So in other words, if we change our perspective and say, you know what? Yeah, for the last client, I had to write 7 offers. That's not okay. What do I need to do to write 4 offers for the next client? What do I need to do to write an offer different? What do I need to do to sell a house better that's not going to fall through, after you went through that rigmarole? So it changes the idea that the current position we're in right now does not need to be acceptable, because if it is acceptable, it is going to burn you out.
And it's going to be your reality too, right? Mm-hmm. So what I just heard is, are you working to improve yourself and the outcomes, and not just making assumptions that that's how it's automatically going to be? I love that.
And do you understand what you can control and can't control?
Well, there's a big conversation around understanding that and then letting that go, right, Eric?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that we always have a decision. We can make things better. We can accept them the way they are, and sometimes accepting them the way they are is fine too. Because if you literally have no control, acceptance is your best option. But there's typically something, if you can't change something externally, then change it up here. Otherwise, everything will stay the same. Right?
Yep.
So, thanks, I appreciate that, Rick. All right, so I want to dig into a little bit of, all right, so I'm tying all these together. We did this, then we got into the goals. And now I want to talk a little bit about the difference between what drives action and what drives inaction. So we're all driven by different things, but I do think there's some core fundamental things that drive us or keep us from taking action. So what drives people to take action? Pain? Pain? Okay. Back to caps.
Vision.
Vision. I'm going to put vision and desire together just so. Oh, no.
Please.
Say that again.
Opportunities.
Okay.
Goal with accountability.
Accountability. Kevin. Something. Desire. Desire right here. Can't see, you can't read it.
There's a reflection up there somewhere.
Like my head. Oh, first time I'm gonna think about that later. Very vulnerable.
Newness, like something new.
Something exciting, new. Okay. Okay.
Success.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
We're in the
I'm missing, what's that?
mindset or minefield.
Mindset. Oh, I think Kimbra, I think I saw that. She was saying mindset and strategy.
Competition.
Interesting. Okay.
Having committed to a goal and shared it with someone.
I'm going to put that in accountability. Does that work? When you share it, that helps. I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet.
Money.
Life event.
Did we say fear?
Fear.
Oh, no, you're saying money.
Yeah.
Actually, money. I like that too.
Fear and pain.
Pain.
The reason I bring up fear, and that could be in this scenario, let's just use when somebody is in, like, say, financial pain, we tend to do things like, I don't really have as many options. I gotta go do something, right? Okay. Now, what causes inaction?
Fear.
Yes, fear. What else?
Lack of information. Incompetence.
Okay.
Confusion or lack of clarity. People get stuck, kind of.
Okay. No goals. I'm gonna put that in with lack of clarity. You guys are good with that? You don't like that. I'm gonna write it down. I don't want you to be mad at me.
There's a reflection there.
Lack of respect. Are we talking self-respect? Yeah, what else?
Jake, I'm gonna say choice, because we choose an action sometimes because it is easier.
So if it's a choice, though, that's what I'm talking about. What causes us to choose action versus, see what I'm saying?
Easier,
Comfortable. It's comfort.
comfortable.
It's known, even if it's uncomfortable, it's what I know, so.
It's familiar.
I read something in a book and I wrote it down. I want you guys to listen to this around comfort. And I apologize if this is being recorded. I apologize to whoever wrote this book because I couldn't find it, but I knew it. It says if we stay with the familiar, we take no risks. If we don't take risks, we don't have to change. If we avoid change, we can explain that reasons for our lack of growth is a multitude of external circumstances. So the reason we don't grow, the reason we don't get any different results is because everything outside versus us being willing to take the risk, fight through the fear, fight through the unknown, the uncertainty, all of that stuff. So this one is you can see this. Gary has told this story multiple times when his dad says, "Why do you work for money?" He says, "I don't." He said, "Yeah, you do. You just keep making more of it." He's like, "I can quit anytime, but I want to keep working." He's not stuck with just being comfortable with having enough money. The people that make money and then quit are working for money, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I do think there's an empty pursuit at a certain point if that's the only thing that's driving it. So find a use for the money. Okay, what else? On inaction. I'm going to write this down. Entitlement, you can't read it, sorry. Entitled. Somebody thinks they deserve something that might keep them from doing the work necessary to go get it. Saw some cringy faces on that one.
I was thinking something else. I think
Well, you were one of them.
Yeah, I think there's a reality as well to mental health issues. I know I'm opening a can of worms, but I think sometimes people are stuck because they have other things going on that are causing them to be stuck.
I think that's super fair. Absolutely.
Well, tired,
Tired? That
Exhausted.
seems-
exhausted, tired, worn out.
So the goal in this is when you look at these, what causes you to get into action and what causes you to stay out of action? Here's what I've learned in coaching, a lot of coaching that I've done. I'm just going to draw it right in the middle. So if people can't see it online, I apologize. It's just 2 bars and then up and down, if that gives you any idea. I'm not going to minimize it to this because it's going to be different for everybody. I want you to understand that fear is a component of almost every single one of us. So fear of not having what we want, fear of going broke, fear of whatever it is, fear of letting people down, fear of success, fear of whatever it is up here, fear of being judged. You realize you can create a trap. In any of these, you can create traps. So it's more of what I encourage is it's more of an awareness around what allows you to, each one of us are different. Find your thing and just be aware of it.
We're at the top. So we all know at the bottom where fear is, right? And we know that we have to pay bills and we have people counting on us. So the fear at the bottom is different from the fear at the top.
100%.
So with the fear at the top, to keep us in to keep us moving towards our goal, at that, where does that fear look like for people? What do you do with that fear? How do you overcome that? Because we all know the bottom is we're fearful of being broke and bankrupt, but the top fear, how do you deal with that?
This is just my opinion. I don't know who's on. I'm not going to say it. You've got to let go of whatever anybody else thinks of you. Because up here, what you have is typically limited by maybe who is in your circle. There's people on here that financially are doing better than anybody in their family has ever done. And I can anticipate that's a very uncomfortable situation. Because it's myself included. Like it gets really, like your family members make jokes at you like, you can write a check for that. It's like, you actually don't get wealthy by writing checks like that. So I think you have to get really honest with yourself of what you're actually trying to accomplish yourself, and then remove any fear of people that are going to judge you by making those decisions. Does anybody else have any input or I'm open for disagreement too.
think you also have to learn to trust yourself and prove over time. I've heard people say, I'm afraid of the success because what will I do with it when I get it? Can I manage the people? Can I lead the people? Will they trust me? So there's a fear of what people think, but sometimes there's a fear of, can I really do it? And what will I do when I get there? So it's knowing that you can show up for yourself over and over. It's learning to really trust yourself and earning that with yourself.
This is an internal game right here, because you're the only one that's going to cap it. You've gotten here, there's a reason. Now you get decisions. So I think there's something, fear of success is a super real thing. We sabotage ourselves more than we think. So understanding your true north, your North Star, your desire, your vision is the only thing that makes you pop through that lid. Because once you have enough money, money won't do it if you don't have a plan for that money. Can I say something about money? Doesn't matter, you guys aren't going to tell me no anyway. There's this focus on making, like, I want to make $100,000. There's people in here making $1 million, right? So the way I look at it is there's too much of a focus on income. Stop talking about income. Start thinking about wealth. What's your net worth? I'm way more interested in finding out what somebody, not in a creepy way, but understanding how somebody's building their net worth than how much money they made last year. Because I've also talked to a lot of people that are making $1 million that are broke. I don't want to help. I don't want to hurt somebody in that position. I want to give them perspective. Like, you can pay attention to what your net worth is, because the income doesn't matter. So we all probably know somebody that has worked at the same job for 30 years and they're very, very wealthy off of 50 grand a year. We also probably know people that maybe make that person's net worth in a year and they don't have much to take from it. And there's no judgment from it, but I think shifting the mindset of this is how much I'm making to I want to build my net worth by this, this, and this is a lot more healthy for not only them, but for generations. And then you get to teach your kids, you get to teach the people around you that same concept. We're in a much better place to help a lot more people in that sense than just making a lot of money. Tangent. Everybody gets quiet when we talk about money. All right. All right, so I'm going to kind of go back because I said I went back to, or I was going to go back to it. So I think there's areas, you guys notice a lot of what I talk about isn't necessarily specifically market driven. I mean, we talk about providing value to clients and all of that stuff. Fundamentally, I believe that without us growing ourselves, nothing else matters. I'm not interested in anything else because there's a cap and there's going to be this consistency constantly starting over without developing ourselves. So if we're looking at the skills we need to develop on, I want to talk a little bit about communication. What's the point of communication? Big question. I get it. And understanding. Understanding. Okay. What else? To have a conversation.
Clarity.
Bad one.
Awareness.
Awareness. I like it.
Share ideas.
Share ideas.
Mutual respect.
Respect is a good one.
Connection.
Connection. So you guys see where like there's all these benefits, right? What if we suck at communication? How much clarity will we have? How much connection will we have? You see, so there's a skill set. Wendy, you brought up asking questions. Man, if we could get more to that and then throw a little empathy into it, can you imagine what this world would sound like compared to what it sounds like now? So there's plenty of hard skills that we can work on. Yep. Where I want to go with this conversation is, what are you guys doing to work on your soft skills? What do you think I mean by soft skills? And by the way, there's brand new agents on here and there's seasoned agents that are on here. This conversation, in my opinion, is above nobody. Because there's this constant adaptation.
Adaptation.
Guys, I'm smart at my moments, but there's this constant adaptation of how do we communicate and who are we communicating to? And if we think people should listen to the way we communicate based on what feels comfortable for us, you've lost. You're going to lose that one. So we've got to find different ways to communicate effectively to the group of people that we're trying to communicate to. So what are soft skills that you think I'm referring to?
Active listening.
Listening, solid one. Listening not to talk, but listening to understand. Big difference. What else?
Not talking.
Not talking.
Like refraining to respond. I think it, as a fixer, a lot of us have that want this immediate need to respond to something, but it kind of goes with that listen, but then also have the wherewithal to process and think before you respond.
What comes to mind when you say that, Jeff? When we don't respond right away with an answer, what are we actually doing for the other person?
Giving them time to think about their answer.
Giving them an opportunity to process. How many times do we talk about stuff that doesn't make sense? That's why I write a lot just to make sure it doesn't sound completely confusing.
Do we add body language there too?
I'll put body language and communication, or like the soft skills of communication. Yep. I'm gonna go weird on you guys. You guys want to go weird?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. What about kindness? I'm not talking just to be kind. I'm talking to be kind when somebody else is not. I want you guys to think of the long play on that. Most times people come back and realize they weren't very nice to somebody. And the way you respond makes them comfortable to come back, and it can be a relationship that you never knew was there.
That makes me think of tone. Have you ever had somebody, maybe like a wife, that says you're yelling at me?
I'm not answering.
You're yelling at me and I'm not yelling at you. Well, the tone tells me that you are, so that makes a big difference, right?
Yes and no, because right there, what I heard is a soft skill that you jumped to a conclusion without asking a question. But that's a really good example, because when we make assumptions, that's a soft skill too. What you do with that assumption is you can develop the relationship. Jim.
Jake, for me, it's also about the vocabulary that we use.
Words.
I can use one word and it means something to you, but I could use the same word and Matt over here is going to have a whole different perspective. So I think it's the words that we use, the vocabulary that we choose to use, the way we address it, the tone, but also the perspective. Because if I asked you to describe a pig's tail, for example, how would you describe that?
Pig's tail, but let's do that.
Yeah. I mean, what is your perspective? How would you describe a pig's tail? I know this is off the wall.
You said you were getting weird. I guess you did that.
I gave permission for it's curly and
See, she's receiving that
Somebody might
very
describe it as a corkscrew.
Yeah, words matter.
That's my point. That's my point. What is your perspective? What is your point of reference to something?
Yeah.
And so that can impact our communications.
Well, yeah, if you don't know your audience, that's if you think about it, if you don't know your audience, you don't understand where that person might have been coming from, and you try to communicate in your own way, coming from an entirely different world. Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Down pretty quickly. Yeah. No, words matter.
I think one of the things that's important too, Jake, is as a receiver of a text or whatever, is just assuming positive intent, right? And we can take those different things, but as the receiver of that communication as well, we can get kind of crazy in our own head.
Kevin, you nailed positive intent. It's something that I work on all the time, because my assumption is when you run businesses, you tend to try and find what you got to fix. And sometimes that hurts. your perspective on things. There's always going to be something that's messy. So I wrote down kindness. I think clarity is a soft skill as well as a hard skill. Empathy. Now, some hard chargers in here or online are probably going to drop off. And yeah, they're probably jumping off here pretty soon because this is not what we want to talk about. Yet the reality is, if you want to build a big business, these are all ROI positive. If you're kind when somebody is rude, you'll win. If you're empathetic to somebody that disagrees with your perspective, you'll win because you maintain relationships with people. There's something really powerful with that. So what, Katie, could you put up the social or the emotional intelligence? We'll wrap this up with this. I got it. Okay, so when I look at emotional intelligence, there's 4 areas. One is your self-awareness. One is your self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Now, if you can put emphasis on anything, go to the top left corner. I don't know how to teach self-awareness, and you guys have probably heard me say this, because it's really around identifying what you're good at, what you're not good at. It's really understanding how other people can affect you greatly determines how you can respond versus just react. So when you understand yourself well enough, you can go into the relationship and social components of life. And self-management, I think, is something that part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this is partially from a conversation Jen and I had. And if anybody in that group is up there, Jen asked a group of people, who did you have a really good transaction with last year? Guess what their answer was? It wasn't the good people they remembered. Guess who it was?
Hell knows I never want to work with them again.
The hell knows I never want to work with that person again. How does that bode well for your clients if you're that person?
Or in this market for other agents. If you're an agent that people were like, I never want to work with them again, and you're representing a buyer and you're one of 15 offers, good luck.
Good luck. So part of me, guys, I'm not going to go through all of this, but part of me is, if we can be the company, we can go swear when we're by worse, or come talk to me, like just vent. I'm totally fine with that. But if we're the company that doesn't automatically respond to somebody else's attack on us, or because let's be honest, who thinks negotiations is an argument? It feels like it, right? We have the opportunity to not make it an argument. This is not between us and the other agent, between the clients. So as soon as we start to personalize it, then it does become an argument. So I'm interested to hear what you have, but we have to understand where we're at emotionally to be able to be the professional, not to feed into somebody else's garbage. We all know what this feels like sometimes. We're having a bad day. I get it. Be empathetic. Well,
I wasn't raising my hand.
I know.
I was just kind of laughing at it because, yeah, you make it cordial and professional, and yes for the manager. You know, when you're on a customer service call, like eventually you ask for the manager when you get nowhere.
Yeah,
that's sometimes it's needed, right, and emotional.
And you can get to the same
happens.
spot.
Yeah.
You can get to the same spot without escalating it.
Yeah.
So while I get that you might be valid in responding the way you want to respond because somebody came at you a certain way, think about how powerful you are when it doesn't matter how somebody else's ego affects you. If you come at me and threaten me, okay, now what? I'll get spicy in the room somewhere else, but I'm not, if I feed into that, all that does is make them push harder the next time they want to get the same thing. So this is where empathy can come back into the equation and really guide. Like, let's keep this. There's no benefit for me to react the same way you just came at me. Nobody's going to win. So if you put yourself in the powerful position of really managing yourself well, you get to do all this other stuff. You might be having a bad day, right? Your thoughts on that? He's like, I hope I wasn't the person that they said they never want to work with me again.
You know, I think about what Diana says about when you have to assume that somebody is doing the best they can at any given time, right? And if you just kind of use that as like your compass, I think I've learned that at least sheds some light when I hear somebody say something awful. It's where they are right now, and it's probably coming from whatever painful interactions they have and frustrations and everything else. And it just so happens that their cheeseburger is the thing that they're melting down about, right? And yet it's probably everything else. So give them a break. See if you can diffuse it or whatever.
Well, even if you can't diffuse it, you don't escalate it.
Well, right. I mean,
And I think Starbucks makes more people angry than a cheeseburger. You get my drink wrong, I'm gonna flip. Not me. I don't do that. All right. So let's
I was
just.
gonna
wrap
say
this
one
up
more
with-
thing about that, Jake.
Claire?
It's Claire, yeah. About, people, I think a lot of times, kind of like you said, we have, sometimes we just think they mean the worst when another party is saying something and or writing something. I think writing, text messaging, emailing, we infer a tone that might be a lot more negative than somebody expected. And I think a phone conversation can clear up a lot of things. And I think coming at it from a place of understanding the other person versus trying to get them with your opinion and sort of like a boxing match, but disarming them with kindness, or, asking a question that's not necessarily directly related to the point of contention, but sort of coming from a place of trying to understand where they're coming from, which can be really hard when we want to be right and when we want to get our own point across. And I find personally that when two people want to get their own point across, you might as well give up because if they're not seeing eye to eye and nobody's trying to understand the other person's perspective, they can still be not correct or wrong, but you're trying to understand it. And I think that anybody would want somebody to understand where you're coming from. And so turning that around and giving the other person the opportunity to explain where they're coming from, and then maybe seeing more eye to eye. I don't know. I think especially right now, I get calls and people have problems with other people, and it's really some of it I think can be solved by asking questions around the other person's point of view, perspective, or intent. Because I think that we think that other people we think the worst. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case right now. So anyway.
Really well said. Mode of communication. Yeah, if there's a hard conversation, let's not use text. You make a super valid point that you escalate things by miscommunication than we do solving it. So, and if you can get yourself to the place to ask more questions first, a lot of times people reciprocate. So, well said, Claire. As a broker, you take plenty of those phone calls, so we appreciate what you do. So, we know there's a challenging market, and I'm going to go off of what Jen said. If you need space, take it. We have a community of people that can help you. So if you need space, take that time. If it costs you a referral, get over it. Worth it. If you think trying to hold that referral is worth your mental health, I'm not interested in having that conversation. So take the time. There was a podcast that I listened to a couple of weeks ago, and for whatever reason, it's a a horse and a mole were walking through a forest, and the mole said, dude, I can't see where I'm going. He's like, that's all right. Can you see the next step? He said, yeah. He said, just take that one. You're not supposed to see the path down the road yet. So just like, seems simple. Sometimes we get into a space where we're a little bit foggy and we don't know exactly where we're going, yet we do know what the next step is to take. So if it is taking some time, take some time. If it's putting the pedal down, put the pedal down. We're all in different spots. And I think there's a special place that we can all make those decisions and then lean on each other to do that. So 2 quick takeaways and we'll get you out of here. What do you got? Must have been super powerful.
You need to be honest with yourself.
Honest with yourself. How do you do that?
Well, I'm still learning, but you just need to.
I love your honesty.
You have to be ask those hard questions and be like very truthful about to yourself.
Find a community around you to help you with that too, because that, I think that helps a lot. So I appreciate that, Chris. One more.
I'm thinking of like your sine wave, and when you hit that top and you were saying, well, what does push you beyond that? And it's, for me, it's like the idea of models. I'm really not wanting a model, saying, I don't want to go there.
You want the flexibility to do whatever you want, whenever you want. Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, find one item that I find a model for. A different circle of persons to get ideas or whatnot, but find one item that I want to improve upon and find that model.
Yeah, don't try to change everything. That's, I love find one thing. That's perfect. I love that. All right, Jim.
Never stop learning, and it's okay to step out of your comfort zone and take a risk. That's how you're going to grow.
Every day. You'll never regret it.
Yep.
So I love the growth mindset in here, and I appreciate you guys being here, and hopefully it was helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys.
All right, before everybody takes off, if you want to do any networking, buy or sell any